Right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting of the Yorkshire North Yorkshire Combined Authority Audit and Governance Committee. Please note that today's meeting is being live broadcast, so members are asked to speak clearly and reasonably volubly so that the microphones can pick up what's being said clearly for people who happen to be watching or look at the recordings later. A warm welcome to new officers attending the meeting, and I think it might be helpful if we actually all run round the room, because there are also substitute members here today, briefly introducing ourselves. So I'm Dave Merritt. I represent the Guildhall ward on the City of York Council, and I'm chair of the Audit and Governance Committee.
I'm Paul Clark. I'm the Head of Governance and the Deputy Monitoring Officer at the Combined Authority.
I'm Mike Russell. I'm Director of Resources and Section 73 Officer at the Combined Authority.
I'm Becky Cannon. I'm Head of Compliance and the Data Protection Officer at the Combined Authority.
Good morning. I'm Stuart Cutts. I'm Assistant Director with Verito and provide your internal audit services.
Good morning. I'm Max Thomas. I'm also from Verito. I'm here to support Stuart covering data protection and risk management we do for the authority.
Hello, I'm Mark Otterstein. I'm a director from Forvis Massage, your external auditors.
Sophie Hurst, I'm the external audit manager from Forvis and Towers as well.
Matt Waters, City York Council.
And Philip Broadbent, North Yorkshire, Fairfax and Starbeck, Harrogate Ward.
Tony Fisher, Councillor for Strensall Ward, City of York Council, and member of the Audit and Governance Committee, City of York.
Cliff Long, North Yorkshire Council for Thorpe Wilby and Hamilton, Deputy Chair. Thank you.
Rachel, City of York Council.
Eric Bastiman, represented Scotby at the Coast and North Yorkshire Council, substituted for Councillor Pearson. Thank you.
Will Baines, Democratic Services for the Combined Authority.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, we'll just formally record the apologies for absence from Councillor Caroline Goodrick and Councillor Hollier, with Tony Fisher as a substitute, and from Clyde Pearson. We also have apologies from Dr. Stuart Green, who is the independent member. So, item 2, the draft minutes of the meeting held on 14th of October. Is someone happy to move them as a correct record? Thank you. And seconded? Thank you. Can I see all those in favour of approving them as correct record? Thank you. That's agreed. Item 3, declaration of interest. Has anyone got a disclosable pecuniary interest or other registrable interest this morning? Seeing anybody? Right, thank you very much. Item 4, public participation. There are no questions or statements received by the deadline on Friday, the 9th of January. I have had correspondence about a request for an urgent statement, which I have discussed with the officers. The usual tests of urgency are A, that it should have, that it was an issue that could not have been raised before the deadline, which was met, but B, that it is an issue that cannot be reasonably dealt with, that has to be dealt with before the date of our next ordinary meeting, which it didn't meet, and therefore I have not accepted this as an urgent item. But what I have done is I've responded to the person who submitted it. I have asked officers to look at what's involved in this. There are issues about whether some of it's actually audit and governance, or whether some of it's in effect a complaint that should be dealt with through the Standards Committee. So I've asked that in terms of the governance issues, that officers look at those and come back to the next meeting along with the statement, together with the statement that's been submitted. So that's for your Councillor Water.
All the members of the committee being involved in the correspondence. Some of them might not even know what we're actually talking about here.
Yes, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to give that for information's sake. Request to me as chair of the committee to permit it as an urgent item, which I have not done for the reasons I've stated.
Well,
it will, so I've asked officers to bring it back to the next meeting and then members can see what's involved and the rest of it.
Yes.
Okay.
will it be worth bringing the subject member back to the next meeting if it's considered to be a governance issue rather than a standards issue?
I'll ask officers to look at that issue. Yeah, it's quite a reasonable question, but as I say, it's coming at rather last minute. It's a complicated issue. I don't want to how we handle it at this point. Right. 2025 internal audit progress report. Mr. Katz is going to deal with Stuart Katz is going to deal with that one.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Our quarterly progress report, there's the covering report on page 17 and progress report starts on page 21. I'll take that the report itself has been read, so I'll just highlight a couple of the main points from the progress report. Paragraph 7 to 10 on page 23 highlights to readers the work since the meeting in October. We've finalised with officers the Transparency Code audit, of which a summary is included in Appendix A further on in the report, and we've made progress on 2 pieces of work shown in Appendix A on page 26. They are risk management, payroll and performance management on the first 2 lines of the table on Appendix A. So we've made good progress with work with officers. The follow-up of agreed actions we're in progress with on page 24, which is referred to on page 11 to 14, the paragraphs 11 to 14. And finally highlight to members the update to the programme of work, which is conversations with Mike, and paragraphs 15 to 18 provide an update linking back to some of the conversations we've had in previous committees and our opinion that we were given for 25, hoping to lay the foundations to allow with greater work and ability to give an opinion this time round. I suppose just for completeness, I'll refer to joint internal audit working, which is on page 5, paragraphs 19 to 21. In the main, that's covered by the following agenda item on the internal audit framework. But as we mentioned on paragraph 21 is the assurance framework should help closer working and help provide a combined opinion covering all aspects of the authority to be provided for the 25-26 year. Any questions on any aspects of the report, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Fisher?
I'm not sure if it's a question I should ask to you or whether it should be asked to the officers of the North Yorkshire Combined Authority. When audit reports are published, are they in the public domain in their entirety or are parts of them redacted? City of York were advised by our monitoring officer not to publish internal audit reports in full, for fear that somebody with malign intent could actually exploit some of the weaknesses before they were fixed. What's the policy of the North Yorkshire Combined Authority on that, please?
More or less the same policy, that the full reports are available to you as audit governance committee members to allow you to conduct this function, but we don't publish the full versions for that very reason. There may well be some of the subject to FOI, and we can apply tests if they are disclosable, but as you say, they can contain commercial or sensitive information.
Good, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, can we agree the recommendations to note the progress made and to improve the revised internal audit work programme for 25-6? Agreed? Consent. Thank you very much. We then move on to item 7, the Information Governance, Counter Fraud and Risk Management Programme.
Sorry, Jen.
6, apologies. Internal Audit Assurance Framework, which is Stuart again. Apologies.
Yeah, I'll take this one actually. So,
Oh, right.
As the report sets out, the authority currently has 2 internal audit providers, being Verito and RSM. It also has three audit committees, different functions. And given that, and it's slightly unusual for public authorities to have that sort of mix of providers and different committees, it has been recognised that there is a need to provide greater clarity to avoid the risk of possible duplication, but also to make sure that the actual audit work is the benefits from that audit work are maximised. Since the authority was created, we've had informal arrangements in place, and that's basically been Verito talking to RSM and discuss audit work, but it's very much an informal arrangement. We've been recommending that a more a proper structure is put in place to sort of recognise the work of the different providers and the different roles and responsibilities. So we've prepared an audit assurance framework. Both Mike and RSM have contributed to the preparation of this framework. The draft framework is attached to the report, so it's on pages 35 to 38. It's relatively brief. It's fairly high level, hopefully understandable. But what it's intended to do is ensure that there is adequate audit coverage for the authority functions, that the work of internal audit, be it Verito or RSM, is aligned with the authority's key risks and priorities, that the work is properly coordinated between the two providers, that information relevant to that work is properly shared in a manner. Work goes towards being able to provide an opinion. That's our responsibility as chief audit executive for the authorities, that we provide that opinion, but that opinion has to be then based on the work that RSM did. So the framework really sets out the respective roles and responsibilities of each provider. It also the roles and responsibilities of the different audit committees, but it also extends, it includes the sort of roles of the audit committees themselves and their responsibility to provide oversight of internal audit. And there's also a need, obviously, to align the framework with the authority's existing audit charts. So it's trying to do various things. Hopefully, it satisfies the purpose, but we are asking the committee to approve the framework as it's drafted.
Questions and comments, but if I could kick off, can I just check that this has, assuming it has been tested out with RSM in terms of the view from their point of view, and whether it's been looked at by the IAC and JIAC. Unfortunately, Dr. Green's not with us this morning to give us an immediate tip.
It's certainly been discussed and agreed with RSM. In fact, RSM contributed to the preparation of the framework, so they are okay with it and they've signed up to it. Whether it's been shared with the other audit committees, to be honest, I can't say. I think it's important though that all the audit committees agree to it.
Yeah, if I just mention, I think it might be unlikely only on the basis that we met with RSM the week after they'd had their December JIAC and
the timing didn't work.
The niceties, so the final version wouldn't have been available for the December committees in that instance.
Right. Are there any other questions or comments? No. Right. The recommendation is to approve the updated draft internal audit charter. And can I suggest that we make that subject to being seen and agreed by the other two audit committees first? Or is there a time limitation?
No, I should say it's the draft internal audit assurance framework. That's my mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, the draft internal audit. Would that be agreeable to members? Okay, thank you. Right, we'll get to item 7 now. Information governance, counter fraud and risk management progress report. Max, can you make sure you do speak up in terms of being caught by the mic?
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update on the information governance, counter fraud and risk management work that we've undertaken since the last meeting of this committee in October. Just a few things to note. First is that the authority has now appointed a new head of compliance, Becky Cannon, who's with us today. Becky has taken on the role of the authority data protection officer. So our role has changed to being one where we are now supporting. In terms of just a few other things to highlight, there have been 12 data breaches reported so far this year. None have been considered to be significant. Having said that, for an organisation of this size, it does seem quite a low number. It may be that that is the case, or it may be that we need to do a bit more about raising awareness and publicise the need to report potential data breach they occur. The authorities answered 84% of FOIs in time. We're continuing to work to improve this. Obviously, we're aiming to get to at least 90% as soon as possible. 90% of the subject access requests dealt with by the authority have been completed in time. So there's been no case of fraud reported to us, although we've had one we are currently considering. And we've also facilitated workshops. First of all, the Central Services Senior Management Team, and the second for the Economy Directorate Senior Management Team. I think that probably covers everything in the report.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Lunn.
Thank you. Do you train people in counter fraud and make everyone who works for the combined authority aware that how data breaches occur? Because always it is people, and it's not failures of the machinery, or it's failures of people, and of course they're getting much more sophisticated.
Absolutely. So in terms of so data protection and the information security breaches that Max talked about, everybody that comes through any part of the combined authority does data protection and management. Management information training. That's normally done every couple of years. I've also this week just put out across sort of all parts, including fire, PFC and fire and rescue, some like reminder guidance about what personal data is, because I think sometimes that's sort of not necessarily that well known, what a data breach might look like, and then how to report it, just to make sure that people are reporting it. In terms of counter fraud training, I am not aware of that, but I can have a look. I don't know if there's any specific counter fraud training that I've come across.
We haven't done any specific training. Having said that, there is some e-learning courses that we're developing, which we will make available to the authority.
Thank you. I just come back to the comments about the number of incidents reported and awareness training, which you've touched on. Is there a commitment to do that?
Yeah, I've already, so as I said, I've just put something out this week that's gone across everybody, but I've also got planned like monthly sort of bite-sized awareness, just to remind people of what personal data is, what things might be. Also going to put it in slightly different formats, because a big part of the combined authority, mainly the operational fire and rescue staff, don't have ready access to IT. So it's more because they're not issued laptops, phones. So it's more about making sure they are aware of data that they might come in contact with in hard copy with the people that they're dealing with. So that is, I've got sort of something scheduled to send out in different formats every month, just to kind of keep that message kind of trickling in.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions or comments, the recommendation is to note the progress in delivering the 2025-26 Information Governance, Counter Fraud and Risk Management Work Programme. Is that agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Item 8, the External Audit Progress Report. Mark Outerside.
Chair, we'll take the report as read and provide an update on the work completed for the 24 disclosed opinion work and the work we are completing to build that assurance in future years to move away from the disclosed opinions that you've had in the past. The note on page 5, we've highlighted the risk of significant weakness about how police and fire internal audit findings are reported to those charged with governance per the Constitution. This has been through our the firm's internal moderation panel, and we intend to report this as a significant weakness in our final auditor's annual report, which will be issued in February. We will also provide an update on the progress made to date on the other significant weaknesses which we carry forward from the previous year. I'll now hand you over to Sophie, who will be able to give you a bit of an update in terms of where we're at.
So as I said, Section 24/25 will be issuing a disclaimed opinion. So part of that involves forming some minimum procedures, which is calculating materiality, doing a risk assessment, and making standard inquiries to those of governance and management. So we're in the process of doing this, and we're a good way through. We've also started doing some additional work on the 23/24 and 24/25 balance sheet to begin to rebuild the assurance lost from the prior year disclaimed opinion, and also the disclaimed opinion that will be getting issued for this year. We will report our audit plan and the subsequent findings from the backstopped audit in a joint audit strategy and completion report. This will be brought to committee once the audit's completed at the end of February. Ahead of the deadline of the 30th of November, we also issued our draft value for money commentary. We've reviewed this and liaised with Mike and taken on board any comments that he had to update our commentary, and we will be providing and issuing our final commentary to committee in our auditor's annual report, again when we've completed this year's audit. So those are the key points, but Mark and I are happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions or comments from members? Can I just come back on the point that you've raised about the internal audit, which is obviously quite important. I am conscious that we were not getting reports from IAC and DIAC to this main committee until our last meeting. So earlier in the year, we certainly weren't doing that, but we had the annual reports at our last meeting. We have later on today's agenda got the draft minutes of the latest two meetings. We've obviously just dealt with the internal audit assurance framework. Will those be enough for us to address your concerns on the current year in terms of the reporting, the internal audit arrangements?
Weakness pertains to 24/25.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Now, we will reflect upon that in the 25/26 year. And our concern was just about that timeliness of the report, and so that those charged with governance per the Constitution are seeing the work of internal audit for police and fire on a more regular basis, and that will help inform your annual governance statement at the year end. If something happens now where you side of it, could it potentially be an issue?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There are no other questions or comments. Can we turn to the recommendation that we note the audit progress report? That agreed? Thank you. Right, item 9, the 2025-6 second quarter Treasury Management Update. Mike Russell.
Thanks, Chair. This report on the Combined Authorities Treasury Management activities for the second quarter of the year. At the end of the period, the total cash balances stood at £79.4 million, a slight decrease from the £80.1 million in quarter one. Short-term investments reduced to £65.2 million, while the current account balance increases to £14.1 million. This includes a £5 million general working capital buffer. Investment performance has been strong, with interest income of £1.6 million achieved in the period and £2.1 million in total for the year. This is significantly outperforming the full year budget of £0.5 million, largely due to the prevailing interest rates and the extent of advanced programme funding that the Combined Authority receives. One operational challenge highlighted in the report is the inability to automate overnight sweeps between accounts at the Combined Authority in North Yorkshire who manage our treasury interests. This means that excess balances can remain in current accounts for several days. A review of the service level agreement with North Yorkshire Council is planned to consider this and improve efficiency. The Combined Authority may also consider implementing a business premium style current account arrangement where an interest bearing current account is set up to hold funds temporarily prior to transfer to higher yielding treasury funds. Recent resourcing increases in the finance team include the recruitment of an additional accountant and should also add resource to support treasury planning and reduce the time funds sit on deposit. Finally, in terms of the report, notes that the Bank of England base rate remains at 4% with a cautious outlook due to inflation volatility. Members are asked to note and comment on the report.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Can I welcome the measures that you're taking to try and maximise the income? Obviously, disappointing looking at the Q2 figure in table 1, but as you say, you are making sterling efforts to try and get that resolved. So thank you.
I think it's worth noting around the quarter end figures is that tends to be when we get the big chunks of money in as well. So our bank balance will be peaked at that point.
I appreciate it's a single day's view, which is not helpful in one sense. Okay, right. Can we agree the recommendation to note, and we've commented, to note the report? Yep, that's agreed. Move to item 10. The risk management update. Again, Mike Russell.
Thanks, Chair. So this report on the Combined Authorities approach to managing strategic risk presents the latest corporate risk registers for your consideration, and apologies that they're very small, but there's some A3 versions. These are significant steps to Yorkshire and risk manager will join the team later this month. Their immediate priorities will be embedding our risk policy, robust business continuity plans. The corporate risk register has been refreshed, and I want to highlight a few key changes, particularly 3 new transport-related risks being added following formation of the Transport Directorate in January this year, and reflecting the growing responsibilities in this area. These cover the risk of failing to deliver transport commitments as our powers expand, insufficient resource capacity and capability within the Transport Directorate, potential failure by delivery partners to meet obligations on transport grant programmes. Each of these new risks has initially been given a high rating of 12 after mitigation, due predominantly to the extent of transitional change and development ongoing in the area. In January 2026, a new Director of Transport joined the Authority and will lead on development in this area. Beyond transport, there are positive developments to know. The Authority had an annual conversation pilot with MHLG recently, whereby they consider a lot of factors in terms of the Combined Authorities development. It wasn't a scored process. We're one of the first people to go through it, but a lot of the feedback was positive, and the discussion was very forward-looking, and they were quite happy with what we gave them in that context. We've also appointed a transformation manager and completed a restructure within the Economy Directorate, which strengthens the leadership and delivery capacity in that area. Despite some of these improvements, a number of the high-level risks remain, particularly around resource capacity and organisational integration and financial sustainability. These risks continue to require close monitoring and proactive mitigation. At the next update to the committee, it's anticipated that the directorate risk registers will be presented after a period of development alongside Veritao. At this stage, the committee may be invited, or at that stage, sorry, the committee may be invited to consider transferring some of the relevant corporate risks into directorate ownership to ensure a clear strategic focus from this corporate risk register. So that's an overview of some of the content, and members are invited to note the report, provide any observations on the updated risk register.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councillor Lunn.
Thing. We're finding the tables very difficult to read, whether they're printed or even making them bigger on the screen because we can't see. Is there another way we could do it to get the layout more easily readable?
I'll have a look at that. I think it's very much an operational document, as you've seen. It's flagged to do anything. I'm probably a number of the columns we can take out for the committee because I'm not sure you're necessarily interested in the number or other sort of things. So we'll take that forward. Appreciate there are some A3 documents there as well. Read those off.
Right.
So we'll look at how we can do that better.
If you could, please. Thank you.
I have to say, even on the A3, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
You know, the font size basically for the text needs to be bigger. I appreciate that it's more pages, but I think that is important. You know, we most councils have a standard in terms of accessibility for those who have eyesight problems of 14 font, and even at A3, this is considerably less. If that can be addressed, please. Are there any other questions or comments on this? I welcome what you're doing in terms of moving the position on and the moving to directorate and a more strategic approach. I just think it's appropriate. I just wondered whether there's a role for perhaps deep diving on some of these issues. What you feel about that? I mean, there is, you know, extensive information here. Might that be of some benefit both to us in terms of greater understanding, but also to yourselves in terms of, you know, what that might bring?
I think from the officer perspective, we obviously monitor these on a day-to-day basis, and we're hopefully over the top, and we're trying through the work. Do that into next year, but should the
Speak up a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah, so in summary, I think the officers work this day to day and are aware of the issues. I think our day-to-day workload reflects what's reflected in these risks, so we are on that on a detailed basis quite often, and we've looked to engage Stuart and the team through Veritao to address some of those risk-focused areas as well through the internal audit programme. But I'm happy should the committee feel there's certain areas they would like to look into to facilitate that, and it will give us some good, I suppose, 360 feedback in how we manage that as officers as well.
Okay, thank you. Right, are we happy to agree the recommendation then? In terms of the noting the contents of the report, and we have obviously undertaken the and noting the latest combined authority corporate risk register. Is that agreed? Thank you. Right, item 11, constitution review update. We did have apologies from Rachel Antonelli today. Paul's going to be covering that, aren't you?
Yes, it'll only be a short update, Chair, but just to allow members to understand where we are with it. So we've had a few verbal updates in recent meetings of this committee around the Constitution, but a bit of a recap. Members will recall back to when the Combined Authority launched that we had a Constitution on day. I would say it was creatively borrowed from a similar combined authority, and we made changes to suit the order that we drafted for our area. It's become clear over time that while it works, it doesn't really suit the day-to-day functionality of the combined authority, and it's needed a bit of a revamp. It is a major piece of work, so fitting that on top of existing officers' day-to-day duties has taken some time. But we've been fortunate recently in that we've been able to secure some dedicated legal support to do that work for us. So that's been supplemented by the Constitution Working Group, made up of members of this committee who've been meeting fairly frequently to try and work through the progress to date. Where we are at the moment, it may not sound like we've made a tremendous amount of progress, that we're at the end of part 2 of the Constitution, which is the articles, but that does cover the majority of the functions and the responsibilities of the key framework of the organisation. So I think it's probably fair to say that's been broken on the book of that piece of work. The target goal is to have a new constitution agreed by the Combined Authority at its AGM at the beginning of June. So that is quite a daunting task in terms of meeting with the Constitution Working Group regularly enough to get that done. But what the working group want to do is to try and have a complete version to peruse so that it can be cross-referenced and read in its totality before it gets to that Combined Authority meeting. So the Constitution Working Group is planning to meet every 2 to 3 weeks in the coming months to try and achieve that, which is quite a daunting task, but everyone seems to be up for it. So I think the next stage is looking at the last section of part 2 and then moving into part 3, which will get into some of the detailed responsibility for functions, contract procedure rules, finance procedure rules, and the committee functions as well. So that's where we are at the moment. I think for the next meeting of this committee, I can't remember if we agreed or not, but it would be useful to have a written report here to this committee so you can see exactly where we are. And if any members want to contribute at that stage, then we'll aim to provide a written report to that effect.
Paul, could you just pick up the arrangements when the final draft comes? Because one of the concerns that we had at the Constitution Working Group is that members will have enough time to read what will be a very substantial document, think it through, and make sure that we've got it right. So we did discuss that.
Yes, and as you're all aware, the normal reporting for committees is 5 working days, which is sometimes enough to skim through the papers, not always for a long, detailed agenda. We're looking to provide an additional week for the full constitution so that members have a fortnight to read through it in detail before it comes into this setting. So hopefully members have had a chance to digest the detail of it.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? In which case, can we agree to note the update on the Constitution review? Thank you. It's agreed. Right, to receive the draft summary minutes of the JIAC and IAC meetings held on the 4th of December. And unfortunately, Dr. Green's not here to give us his own overview of the meetings. If I can, so if members have any comments or questions, we may have to follow them up after the meeting. But I think the thing that I particularly want to note is that both of them were incorporated. I think his concern not the first of those meetings to be incorporated. Whilst obviously there's the legal niceties of having a quorum, I think the more important point is that we have a number of people there with different views and so on in order to give a rounded assessment and judgment of the reports that they are receiving. So the fact that we're not achieving quora at these two bodies as frequent, at each meeting is a concern. So I wish off what consideration officers have given to that issue, whether we need to increase the memberships or what else can be done to ensure that we do have quorate meetings. And if it's on the same point, Councillor Fisher,
yeah, thank you. What is the actual membership in terms of numbers? And are substitutes allowed for those members?
Well, there are substitutes for them because they're not made up of elected councillors. They're made up of directly appointed independent members. There are 5 members on each. At the moment, the membership is the same on both, which is why if you inquire it for one, you generally inquire for the other. I understand that they have recruited to a couple of the posts on there, so the vacancies have been filled. But due to the nature of the work that they undertake, they're subject to police vetting, which is in a bit of a backlog at the moment. It's taking some time. I have had some discussions with the officers, although not detailed ones, around how we could work together as a committee with IAC and JIAC to try and supplement that in some way, which might take a bit of a change to the terms of reference. But it's worth us sitting down together and seeing how we can support one another. Even if it's just how you structure agendas, it may well be that you have a meeting which isn't dealing with confidential information, which doesn't apply everything, and those members will be able to attend. So I think there are a few options that we can look at to try and support them, and hopefully we can try and sort some of that before the next round of meetings.
So did you say
That's Councillor Broadbank. Yeah.
no elected member on it on the committee?
There isn't.
They're all independent, you say?
That's right. Yeah.
Right, from what sort of background are they?
Generally, I think that most of them come from academic, audit, financial backgrounds, governance. I think it's been a mixture over the years, but that's the current setup we have at the moment. Similar in the way to how we recruit to independent members on this committee.
Right, okay.
I think one of the, Paul might be able to correct me if you're wrong, but particularly the police panel, because of the nature of policing, it's a joint audit committee for police and policing, so our PFC elements and police. It cannot have political representation on the audit committee because the chief is politically independent. So there are some nuances around that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, well, I mean, obviously the meetings will be during the day, won't they? They're held during the day. I'm just wondering what the problem is. If the very rarely quora, there must be a problem with the timing or something like that for people who just can't attend the meetings. Obviously there's a problem with the time. I wonder whether you consider evening meetings or something like that instead, so that they can attend. I don't know. It just seemed odd that the regular you can't get the meeting together because the people aren't there.
That may well be an issue, the timing of the meetings. I think all of this just needs to be scoped out if it's an ongoing issue. As I say, it's the same membership on each committee, and they both meet on the same day. So there's a meeting at 10 a.m. and then another at 2 p.m. So if you're unavailable for the day, you generally can't make either meeting. Again, these are things that can be scoped out to try.
Just the problem, the issue with this is, of course, you just tend to go on and on and on and say, oh, we've had a meeting, oh, we can't call it, oh, never mind. Then we call it, oh, we can't call it. And you keep going on like that and nothing gets resolved.
Right. Are there any other comments or questions about the two sets of minutes? Draft minutes, should I say? No. Okay. The recommendation is to receive the draft summary minutes of the two committees. I suggest note our concern about the inquiracy issue and ask officers to consider the issues involved further and what can be done to address them. Obviously, we've had some issues are already underway, but I think it's important that we note our concern and we keep tabs on this. Is that agreed?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. Programme of work. At the back of the papers, are there any comments, questions on the proposed programme of work? Councillor Waters.
Just the issue that was raised earlier under public participation, and you said it'd be dealt with at the next meeting. Will it be dealt with under public participation, or will it be dealt with as an agenda item under the governance section? The notes being dealt with.
Expect it to be the latter, but I'm going to take Officer guidance on that.
It's quite a significant issue.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, as this has been raised from this committee, it would come back as a substantive item rather through public participation.
Yes.
For that.
Yeah. Right. If there's no other comments or questions on the programme of work, can we note it?
Sorry, just say, I know from the programme of work that there's 21 reports listed for the next meeting, so there might have to be a little bit of
pruning,
to get through that amount. So yeah, just bear that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. That's note. Can we note the work plan? Thank you. Right. That urgent business. I have no urgent business. Officers have none. So if we then move to item 15, the date of the next meeting, which is due to be at York, we have two options. We have sticking with the originally proposed date of Tuesday, the 14th of April, or moving to the Wednesday, same time on the Wednesday, the 15th of April. The move is in relation to the previous request that we can have a larger room for the meetings than we have been having in York. But obviously, we obviously also need to make sure people can attend. So can I, have we had any update in terms of responses from members, particularly those who are?
Obviously, emailed up to members prior to the committee. I have had responses back from the members who were unable to attend today, and two of the three have confirmed that the new date, the Wednesday date, would be agreeable to them.
Right. So, what are your views in terms of whether we meet on the 14th or the 15th? Make some comments first.
The Wednesday is in the larger room.
Yes.
Rather than the room cupboard that we had last time. Okay. So Wednesday's fine for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the change of the day of the week is a problem. I think a lot of people, when they agree to sit on committees, it's on the basis of being available on that day of the week. And both myself and my substitute have work commitments on Wednesdays.
Right.
So they wouldn't be able to attend on the Wednesday. But it looks like the meeting will still be quorum.
Okay, so I'm seeing everyone nodding. Is the view then that we shift it to Wednesday the 15th, notwithstanding at least one, or possibly two members aren't able to attend?
It seems fine to retired people, but
yeah. Well, we'll need to think carefully about what happens at further meetings in York, and perhaps look for a different day again, rather than the Wednesday. But okay, for this particular meeting, shall we agree then to meet on Wednesday the 15th? Okay, that's agreed.
So what was the time again?
It'll be at 10:30 as usual.
York, yeah.
In York, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance and contributions, and safe journey home. Sorry?